It's Tuesday, February 13. This is the news on PBCJ. I am Simone Absalom. Normalcy is expected to resume today after an extraordinary move made by members of the island's judiciary. Nearly 100 judges met yesterday at the Supreme Court in what's being described as a historic summit of the judicial arm of government. Courts across the island were disrupted from 10 a.m. as judges convened in downtown Kingston. Without precedent, judges across the island are citing what they say appears to be another instance of interference by the legislative and executive branches of government in the area of independence of the judiciary. The matter at the top of the agenda, Prime Minister Andrew Holness's appointment of Justice Brian Sykes as acting Chief Justice. The acting appointment of Justice Sykes has sparked heavy criticism, and it has not gone down well with the judiciary. In a statement yesterday afternoon, the Court Management Services said, quote, "We wish to make it clear that we do not speak on behalf of the acting Chief Justice and are acting independently of him and without his concurrence in indicating or disquiet." End quote. They further quote, "It is, however, our considered view that the declarations of the Prime Minister relative to the acting appointment unquestionably have serious implications for the fundamental principles of separation of powers and the independence of the judiciary. These are principles of great jurisprudential value as they form the foundation of our constitutional democracy and which are critical imperatives for the protection and preservation of the rule of law." End quote. According to the statement, for the judiciary to adequately and appropriately perform its constitutional functions and maintain its authority and legitimacy, judicial independence must be preserved. Public sector teachers have again been put on high alert as the Jamaica Teachers Association pursues its wage claims with the government. The JTA will hold consultations with members of the latest offer from the government, which includes extending the 2-year wage contract to 4 years. The association has not indicated whether it will accept the offer. Addressing teachers at the JTA Sports Award ceremony in St. Elizabeth Technical High School last night, President Georgia Waugh Richards suggested that they should prepare themselves for any eventuality as the wage negotiations progress. The National Works Agency says it will, in the next 7 working days, begin working along 15 corridors in 7 parishes that since April 2017 have been significantly impacted by flood rains. Communication and Customer Services Manager at NWA, Stephen Shaw, says Clarendon, Manchester, St. Andrew, St. Elizabeth, Portland, Trelawney, and St. Catherine are to benefit from contracts that have been approved for works. Among the roads that will be getting attention are the corridors from Falmouth to Springvale, Trelawney, Maypen to Ginneptree, Clarendon, Harrywatch to Waterloo Bay, Manchester, and Buff Bay to Craig Mill in Portland. According to Shaw, contracts valued at more than $220 million were approved yesterday for the works to be undertaken. Doctors are calling for more Jamaicans to be serious about eye screening, especially those at risk or are living with diabetes. Diabetes can affect the eyes and result in visual loss. This is called diabetic retinopathy. Diabetic retinopathy is one of the leading causes of blindness among working population, people in their 40s and 50s, in Jamaica. The disease, however, can be prevented. This is why an annual screening of all diabetic patients with a dilated eye examination is being recommended due to the results of a study on diabetic retinopathy conducted at the University Hospital of the West Indies. The annual screening, including the eye examination, is an international standard practice but has not been executed in Jamaica. Dr. Lizette Mowat, a consultant ophthalmologist at the UHWI, who is pushing for the implementation of the annual checkup, explained the issue during a think tank session held by JIS.
And these things the blood pressure control, the blood sugar control, actually have a high risk on the progression of diabetic retinopathy. If they can control their blood sugar and their blood pressure, there is a good chance that their eyes or their vision will not worsen. So basically with diabetes, you can get eye disease, or you're more likely to get eye disease if your blood sugar is out of control. If your blood sugar is in control, your diabetes in the eyes does not worsen. So you want to really make sure that the blood sugar is always in control.
The Festival Song Competition 2018 is now underway, with seminars being held in Kingston, Port Maria, Montego Bay and Mandeville recently. It has attracted many talented writers and singers from across the island and some notable presenters at the seminars. Among them, Freddie McGregor, Frankie Campbell, Elaine Lawton, Karen Smith and Robin Levy. The deadline for writers to submit their entries is February 28, as contestants vie for the $10 million in prizes to be won. In regional news, Barbados Prime Minister Frudnell Stewart has rubbished claims that he is transforming the island nation into a police state. Here's more in this report.
But under curfew, not because of anything the police have done, but what the criminal element has done. One lady called me one night, told me she was on her way home. And it began to rain and she stopped to shelter in somebody's veranda. And while she was there, the rain pouring, she heard this volley of gunshots going off all around her. She had to take off her shoes and run through the rain to try and get home. Following day, she got up and she trying to find out what was that really happened. This volley of gunshots, well into the night, was in celebration a local hero's birthday. But in communities across Barbados, that criminal element with firearms have been keeping people off the streets at night and beyond a certain time of day. Do we prefer them to do it, protecting their own criminal enterprise? Or do we want it done by the Royal Barbados Police Force lawfully, in accordance with the law, for the protection of all of us? That's the choice. If you prefer curfews done by the criminal gun-toting element, that's a choice you can make. But they're doing it for their own perverse criminal purposes. When the police do it in accordance with the law, they're doing it for the protection of all of us. And that's the choice. That is the choice. But you get all this talk about this thing unconstitutional and all that. Well, as I said, if anybody feels that the law is unconstitutional, go file an application before the court and ask the court to pronounce on it. We believe in the rule of law.
At least 2 people, including a 17-year-old boy, were stabbed to death as Trinidad and Tobago celebrated the annual carnival with street parades on Monday. Police said that the teen, Rashad Singh, was stabbed during an altercation during the Juve celebrations in Chaguanas. They said 3 people have since been detained and are assisting in the investigations. Police said they also ended the Juve celebrations in the southern town of San Fernando a few hours early after an unidentified man was stabbed to death and another injured. The authorities said the man was involved in an altercation with a group of men and they began fighting. He was stabbed in the chest and abdomen. He was taken to the San Fernando General Hospital where he was pronounced dead on arrival. Police reported that a 21-year-old Keon Jack, who was liming with his friends, was shot and is in critical condition at the San Fernando General Hospital as well.
I wish to advise that 8 persons have been detained to date. We continue, though, with our investigations, all with the clear intention of completing those investigations within the shortest period of time. That we have done All that we can do at this point in time to avert any threat to the Carnival celebration, so persons can feel assured that Carnival 2018, you would have all the necessary safety and security support of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service.
In sports, 8 world-leading performances were recorded at Saturday's 40th Mile Western Relays as 12 meet records were broken, which organizers described as satisfying. O'Shane Bailey, Natasha Morrison in the men's and women's 100 meters, and long jumper Joseph Rami had world best performances, while Rhonda White, who broke the meet record for a second time and won for a 4th straight time, had the 3rd best mark in the 400 meters hurdle. Marzel Miller's time in the men's 400 meters hurdles is the 4th best so far. The Elaine Thompson-led MVP Women's 4x100 meters relay that ran 43.43 seconds assumed the top spot at the IAAF performance charts, while UTEC Men's 39.43 seconds established the world-leading mark in the 4x100 meters. And that's the news. Do stay with us. The weather report is next. This is PBCJ's weather report. Thanks so much for staying with us. Let's start with our local currents. We'll take a look at what's happening across the island today. We're seeing temperatures between 27 and 31 degrees Celsius, and we're also seeing a forecast of possible showers today across several parishes. Let's take a look at what's happening in Kingston right now. The temperature is just about 29 degrees Celsius, and we're seeing a forecast of sunny conditions in the afternoon. Some cloudy conditions expected as well. The sun is set to go down to about 6:33 p.m. As will the temperature. We're seeing a temperature for this evening forecast at 22 degrees Celsius. Let's take a look at our 7-day forecast for Kingston. We're expecting sunny skies on Wednesday, but we could get some rainfall going into the weekend. We're seeing temperatures between 21 and 29 degrees Celsius for the next 7 days in Kingston. Let's take a look at what's happening in the western end of the island. In Montego Bay today, we're seeing temperature at just about 27 degrees Celsius, and we're seeing a possibility of showers in several areas in St. James. We're seeing that the temperature is set to go down to a cool 7 degrees Celsius this evening. Let's take a look at what's going to happen across 7 days when we're looking at St. James. We're seeing that we could have a 30% chance of rainfall on Wednesday, but it should be sunny going into the weekend. We're seeing temperatures between 22 and 27 degrees Celsius for the next 7 days. In our forecast for tomorrow across the island, we're seeing temperatures between 26 and 30 degrees Celsius. We're also seeing a forecast of showers across the island for tomorrow. In our forecast for tomorrow, when we're looking at the Caribbean, we're seeing temperatures between 25 and 29 degrees Celsius. And if you're traveling to the eastern end of the Caribbean, please ensure that you pack accordingly, because we're seeing a forecast of rainfall for the eastern end. It should be pretty sunny over there in Havana, Cuba, and if you're going to Mexico as well. Let's take a look further afield to the United States. We're looking at our travel planner. Those of us who are heading to Los Angeles, we can expect the minimum temperatures in 9 degrees Celsius and a maximum temperature 17 degrees Celsius. When we're looking at our screen, Miami has the highest maximum temperature forecast at 27 degrees. We're looking at sunshine for New York and some snowfall in Atlanta. And that's it for the weather report. Thanks so much for making it PBCJ. Remember, we are the People's Station.